guys, in today's video I'm going to talk about why you should not use expired sunscreen or skincare products. First up, let's talk about sunscreen and why you should not use expired sunscreen. Sunscreen is actually an FDA approved medication intended to prevent a sunburn. And so think of it as a medication, and just like you would not use expired medications, or you should not use expired medications, you should not use expired sunscreen. Chemical sunscreens and mineral sunscreens both have ingredients in them that inevitably with time will begin to degrade, break down, and as that happens, the product begins to lose its efficacy and can no longer protect you against a sunburn. So it no longer achieves its intended purpose, it is ineffective, and using such a product could potentially cause you to have more sun exposure than you intended and even get a sunburn, which is not good for your skin. Also, as sunscreens degrade, they become more irritating. The chemicals degrade and can become irritants and cause rashes and all sorts of skin problems. So you really should never use an expired sunscreen. Drug manufacturers have to do very specific sets of stability testing rounds and submit that for approval so that medications can be safely sold to the public over the counter. And so they have to put at least 3 batches of their product through a variety of different testing rounds, testing different temperature conditions, amounts of time, and testing stability. And so that's how they come up with the expiration date on sunscreens and on medications. So there's actually a lot of data that goes behind determining that date, and a lot of experiments that have to go on and be submitted. So there's some science behind that expiration date, and it's really important to follow it. So the expiration date, as I said, there's a lot of data that goes into determining that, and it guarantees stability of the product up until that date. Not a day after, not a week after, not a month after. So I often get questions, hey, I have this sunscreen and I noticed it expired last month. Is it okay to use it? Short answer, I would not, because there is, potentially it only degraded a little, or potentially it degraded a lot. There is no way that anybody can predict that, and you're just putting yourself at risk. You're putting yourself at risk if you use it for the intention of preventing a sunburn. And also, if you just want to use it up because it's expired, like I said, the ingredients can become more irritating. So you may put yourself at risk for developing a rash to some of the ingredients if they've degraded. And the other kind of question that I get is, well, this sunscreen has a really high SPF, like SPF 75, for example, or 75 or 80. And it's expired by a month. So even if it lost, half of its SPF, isn't it still good? Like, can I risk it in that case? And the answer is, there's also no way to know that the rate of degradation happened in any kind of incremental fashion and not like all at once. So in other words, 2 days after the expiration date, a product that was labeled SPF 75, it could be SPF 75, it could be SPF 70, or it could be SPF 7. There is absolutely no way to know. And so for that reason, I do not recommend using expired sunscreens whatsoever. Well, there's no expiration date listed anywhere on my product. What am I supposed to do? As a general rule of thumb, sunscreens have to be stable for at least 3 years. So in other words, 3 years from the date that you purchased it, it should still be good, but thereafter, get rid of it. Don't keep sunscreens around for more than 3 years. And so then there's this kind of gray zone where you start asking, well, I bought the sunscreen, but it was probably sitting on the store shelf for so many months before I actually got it. And so, then it's more like 3.5 years. How do I know? The answer is you don't. So an even better rule of thumb is chuck it after 2 years, just to be extra safe. That's not to say that sunscreens might not be effective, but they also might be ineffective and potentially degraded and irritating. So it's too big of a risk to take. And so I just recommend getting rid of sunscreens beyond 2 years, particularly when you don't know how long they've been sitting on the shelf. For whatever it's worth, that being said, there are so many skincare products that are pumped out into the market every single day that, let's be honest, you know, stores and whatnot, they don't keep stuff around for very long. They're always trying to churn out the next thing and the next round of products to keep consumers interested and people shopping and buying new stuff and excited to spend money. So chances are it wasn't sitting on the shelf for that long, but you won't really know that going in. But when in doubt, just throw it out. You know, there's no need keeping a product that could potentially put you at risk for a burn or irritation. And so, you know, that being said, if you use sunscreen the way you should be using it, meaning reapplying it daily, at least 3 times a day, or every 2 hours when you're outdoors, you shouldn't have any sunscreen laying around for that long. So I don't recommend hoarding sunscreens. Buy a few and have several around and always be reapplying them and use them up. That's the best approach. Then you never really have to worry about the situation. So, you know, that is what I would recommend to you guys. When in doubt, throw it out and do not use beyond the expiration date. Do not use beyond, definitely not beyond 3 years, but just for safety, not beyond 2 years. Because as I said, you won't know for sure when it was purchased. And kind of along those lines, places like Ross, TJ Maxx, Marshalls. I've done some shop with me videos in those stores. I would not buy sunscreen there either because it sat on the shelf in a store somewhere for a long time and then it got to TJ Maxx, Marshalls, wherever you're buying it, after the store couldn't get rid of it. And it's been sitting in TJ Maxx in one of those little cage boxes for a long time. So in that case, you know, if you buy it there, definitely throw it out after 6 months at the most, I would say. Okay. So buy it, you know, when you run out, which should be every couple of months, not every 3 years. And then you don't run into this issue. Along the lines of expiration dates with sunscreens, I also get questions about effects of temperature and moisture on sunscreen. Specifically, people, for whatever reason, seem to often leave their sunscreen in the car. I guess I can understand that. Maybe you keep it in there so that it's always on hand. I don't recommend doing that, and here's why. Extremes of temperature, whether it be heat or cold, can compromise the ingredients. Like if you live in a cold climate and you left it in your car overnight and it froze, throw it out. I would not use that. Likewise, if you left it in a hot car, I don't care if it was 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour overnight, get rid of it. Don't keep it. Same holds true for medications, over-the-counter medications. Don't keep them in your car, and don't use them if they've gotten overheated. Ideally, you keep sunscreen in a cool, dry area protected from light. So a follow-up to that then is, well, what about the beach? It's not exactly cool there. When we go to the beach, we obviously need to bring sunscreen with us. It's going to be hot and bright out. What do we do? And my tip for that is to just bring one of those little kitty lunch boxes and keep your sunscreen in that. That way it stays cool and doesn't get overheated, and you can keep reapplying it and then just keep it back, put it back in the little lunch tote, and everything's good. But the physical sunscreens, those that contain zinc and titanium dioxide, they will degrade with time, and the chemical sunscreen ingredients like avobenzone, oxybenzone, octinoxate, those will actually oxidize, and those are the ones that really can become more irritating. Zinc and titanium dioxide, they themselves are pretty stable, but if they've got like a coating on them, that degrades with time, and that influences how the SPF is determined initially. So as that degrades, you're going to lose some of that. And not only do the active sunscreen ingredients degrade, but the inactive sunscreen ingredients, the rest of the product starts to degrade and can compromise the active ingredients' efficacy as well. So yeah, again, to reiterate, don't use expired sunscreens. They're medications, and they'll lose efficacy, and you could be putting yourself at risk for not only a burn, but also irritation and rashes. Now, moving into just skincare, the non-medication stuff, like your moisturizers, serums, toners, whatever you're using, cleansers, anything. Again, I don't recommend using old stuff, and definitely don't use it beyond its expiration date. These products have preservatives and things added to keep everything stable and working and functional, and that starts to degrade as well with time. And so you don't want to be putting expired products on your skin. It can put you at risk for irritation. A classic example of that is vitamin C serums. I would definitely, never use an old vitamin C serum, and I definitely would not buy one from like TJ Maxx or Marshalls because it's been sitting around for a long time, and vitamin C degrades with time and can be very unstable. A lot of the products like moisturizers, anti-aging products, they have a lot of antioxidants in them. Those too are not super stable, and with time they're going to degrade and lose efficacy. So I just don't recommend using expired stuff. In general, don't collect skincare. It's a bad hobby. Now, as far as the amount of time though, skincare products are a bigger unknown than sunscreen. At least sunscreen we know has to be okay for 3 years, but skincare products, they're a huge bag of tricks. And, many manufacturers do disclose an expiration date, so definitely check it after that. The majority of products will have a get rid of by X months after opening. So that's definitely a good one to follow as well. Like once you've opened a product, it can be exposed to air and the degradation process gets kicked off a little bit more expeditiously, but just sitting in an unopened package, it still can degrade in that bottle. So it's not a perfect product. I definitely wouldn't use something that's 10 years old on your skin. It just puts you at risk for irritation. That being said, I'm sure there are people out there who are like, well, I use this expired moisturizer and I had no issue with it. That's great, but there's no way to predict that, right? So it just seems like excessive risk. And so I don't recommend using old products. When you buy either sunscreen or skincare products, another tip is to write the date of purchase somewhere on the package. That way you have some kind of idea, at least yourself, how long you've had it in your possession. Write the date in which you purchased it, and then if you open it up and start using it and take a little break from it for a little while, write down the date it was opened, and so then you have an idea of how long you've had it, how long it's been open and in use, etc. So that is another little tip. And then the last point I'll make is there's a rising popularity out there for selling those little skincare refrigerators. Those are cute, right? They're basically a glorified dorm fridge, right? And they keep your products cool. Those are another thing where it doesn't seem harmful, but it's not going to extend the shelf life of your products necessarily in any predictable fashion. It may slow down the rate of degradation of some active ingredients. Products that we do often recommend putting in the refrigerator to keep cool and apply to the skin cool include a lot of just plain moisturizers, or a lot of are moisturizers that are intended for itchy skin, because the sensation of cool moisturizers on the skin can help distract some of the itching nerves in our skin and be really calming and soothing for itch. So that's a great use of those little refrigerators, if you have one, is to keep moisturizer by your bedside in the refrigerator. That way, if you wake up in the night itchy or you're scratching, just putting on some cool moisturizer onto the skin can help soothe the skin right away, cut off that itching signal, and help you get back to sleep. So that's really where those little mini fridges shine, but honestly, you don't need one of those. Humidity also can affect stability of ingredients. Also, moisture getting into the product can affect stability and also put the product at risk for contamination, mold. Particularly if you're using a lot of natural skincare products that are sort of minimal on the preservatives, that can be risky. So I don't keep any skincare products in my bathroom. It's pretty humid in there with the shower, so I don't keep skincare products in the bathroom other than like the hand soap on the bathroom sink, which that's more than fine. But like, I wouldn't keep my sunscreens in there, for example. I don't keep things in the shower either. Don't keep skincare products in your shower. So yeah, take home points: when in doubt, throw it out. Don't keep your sunscreens beyond Definitely not beyond 3 years, but to be conservative, not beyond 2 years. Use them when you get them, use them consistently and use them up, and then this is not an issue. Don't collect skincare that you're not going to use, and when you buy products, whether it be sunscreens or skincare products outside of sunscreen, write the date of purchase and then write the date in which you opened it. And don't leave stuff in the car. When you go to the beach, take a little kitty lunch tote to keep your sunscreen in so it's out of the sun. And comment below though, those of you who have your skincare products in one of these mini fridges, like what are you keeping in there? Do you keep snacks in there? See, that would be my problem if I had one of those mini fridges. I'd be like, oh, I'm just gonna keep beverages in here. And pretty soon I would just have like a ton of drinks by the bedside and I'd be up going to the bathroom all night. So. But anyways, guys, I hope this video kind of addressed some of your overriding concerns about expiration dates. I know it's an ambiguous area, but hopefully these tips were helpful to you. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.